My name is Paul Charles, just Paul Charles. When you are COVID-19 positive, your titles, education, status, religion, accolades, accomplishments, and wealth does not matter. You realize that to breathe is a privilege and everything else wanes in comparison. Nobody teaches us to breathe. It is a sign of life. But let's face it, COVID-19 had taken an emotional and mental toll on all of us in different ways. Some of us lost loved ones. Some of us are connected with someone who is COVID-19 positive, and all of us are affected. My heart breaks to know how many loved ones we lost and how many suffered in different ways during the past few months. There is also a mild stigma attached to those who are COVID-19 positive. It might be unspoken, but it is felt. This is unfortunate. On August 19, 2021, I got up at 6:30 a.m. and immediately went to the bathroom. This was unusual because our routine as soon as we get up is to pray together and then exercise. I did not feel like exercising and I thought I could pray later. That was a trigger of my concern. I had serious headaches and was feeling very cold. I was shivering and coughing. Using our thermometer, I checked my temperature. It was 38.9 degrees Celsius and increasing. It was not normal. I knew the symptoms, so I isolated in one of our rooms. Then I realized that I needed a clinical or pathology confirmation instead of self-diagnosing. My daughter always said that a self-diagnosis is not an unbiased and objective diagnosis. My vision was blurred due to high fever. I asked my son to drive me to the COVID-19 testing site for a PCR test. That evening at 10 p.m., the email was in my inbox. My son Matthew tested negative and I tested positive. It was a hilarious moment. When my son and wife distanced themselves and made it look so dramatic, it was funny. We laughed our hearts out for a few moments. And then we got serious. We had a rule. From the first day we heard about COVID-19 in the world, the rule was, if any of us are infected, the number one rule was stay calm, don't panic. Step 2, discuss the isolation protocols and make all the necessary adjustments. We discussed it. They were in their room and I stood in the passage. Then we prayed. I thanked God that Carol and Matthew were tested negative. I thanked God that we detected it early. I thanked God that we could go for the test. I thanked God that our home has a room to isolate. I thanked God for life. In my prayer, I also said, Lord, we have been counseling and praying with many people. Now help us to put everything into practice. I decided not to post anything on Facebook or any other social media platform. Facebook friends are different from real in-person friends. Now don't take this personally, but I just didn't need everyone to know, and I didn't need anyone's pity. Self-pity is a crippling, self-induced trauma. You might disagree, but that is what I think. I did not pity my condition, and the last thing I needed was for others to pity me. Self-pity, as defined in the dictionary, is excessive, self-absorbed unhappiness over one's own troubles. Now let me get it correct right at the beginning. This is not a judgment on how others or how you must react. I am merely sharing the plan of action that I adopted upon hearing that I was COVID-19 positive. I am not saying that those who post on social media are seeking self-pity, so please don't misinterpret what I am saying. I am deeply moved by the pleas on social media, but after seeing so much for almost 18 months, I decided to adopt a countercultural approach. When I saw so much heart-wrenching stories on social media of what my own family and friends were going through because of COVID-19, I thought that I needed to do something different that would give a different perspective on the crisis to help us handle it differently. I wanted to focus on the importance of mental preparation before and, of course, the role of mental and emotional states during and after COVID-19, during recovery. I cannot check people's vitals. I cannot prevent COVID from infecting you. The only thing I can do is provide an additional set of tools to help people. And that's what I want to do. I cannot be on the front line giving vaccinations. I cannot diagnose or get people tested. In fact, COVID-19 prevents us from even making personal contact. But this is what I can do. I am just taking a different approach and sharing from a personal angle. In sharing these self-talks, I am hoping to be an aid. Think of me as the random guy at the traffic lights. You need to cross the road, but the traffic is heavy. I want to be that guy who simply holds your hand and helps you to cross the road. And while walking together, share my experience, share my perspective in a conversation about our common experience in the hope that it will inspire and comfort you at the same time. I understand that our experiences with COVID are similar, but can never be the same. And I respect that. I don't have any photos of myself in bed or taking medication to let everyone know what was going on or the extent of my symptoms. That is a mistake I made in the past in other crises of my life. I have grown from that and I've learned from the past. I didn't want anyone to overwhelm my wife and family with pity and prayers and forwarding hundreds of forwarded messages that most probably people didn't read for themselves. Only my close and intimate family circle will be allowed to enter this circle when I was positive. If you didn't know that I tested positive for COVID-19, it means that you didn't need to know. Please don't take it personally. It is not the most exciting news to broadcast to everyone. My friends respect that. My POA or plan of action was to first take charge of the situation. How did I do that, you might ask? I think a more important question is why instead of how. So I will take a moment to speak about the why instead of the how. Oh, maybe a definition between a thermostat and thermometer will illustrate it better. There's a difference between a thermometer and a thermostat. A thermometer reflects the temperature of the environment. It simply reacts to what is happening around it. If the temperature is hot, it tells you so. If it is cold, the thermometer will reflect that reality as well. It's a dumb, simple instrument in the sense it doesn't contain intelligent, multi-purpose functionality. It has one purpose and one purpose alone. A thermostat, on the other hand, regulates the environment. It sets the desired temperature of the room and actively works to maintain it within a given range. If the temperature rises above the goal, the thermostat signals the air conditioner to crank up and cool the room down. If the temperature falls below the goal, the thermostat causes the heater to turn on in order to warm the room up. The thermostat is intelligent in the sense that it's always monitoring the environment. And if the temperature gets too hot or too cold, it decides what to do to correct the situation. If you live your life like a thermometer Especially when a disaster, sickness, or a virus attacks you, you will merely reflect the mood, hopelessness, and death sentence that the media highlights. I decided for myself, and collectively we decided as a family, that we would set the thermostat at the optimum setting and let that regulate the room. The thermostat was my brain, my mind, my thoughts, and the room was my body. I acted on the premise that it is not what happens to you, but how you respond to what happens to you that makes the difference. Now, I know that there is more than one single factor that contributes to healing, and that is exactly my point. I want to highlight the importance of one of those factors, which I think has a greater impact on the overall well-being of an individual and improves the efficacy of medical treatment and is important for a long-term overall improvement of life. In this self-talk, I want you to appreciate the fact that you have the choice to decide how to react, and you can predetermine the setting that is most conducive. Most people get overwhelmed too quickly when they receive bad news and do not recover from that state, which leads to more negative consequences. So just remember for now that your brain is your thermostat and you can set the response temperature. That is how you will handle the news of your diagnosis with a proactive mindset. You can be your own thermostat by the thoughts that you think. Never underestimate the power of your thoughts to regulate the temperature of what and how you feel over what you are actually going through. In these self-talks, I'm going to share with you an important point every time. You will only benefit if you keep an open mind. I want to encourage you to brace yourselves, to think and not act like a thermometer, but a thermostat. Now that you know the difference, you can see that it is the smart thing to do. That was my first response because I rehearsed it in my mind many times, just in case I too tested COVID-19 positive. I was grieved to hear of so many people getting infected as the virus spread and wanted to stop shouting from the sidelines. I could see that something was missing in the equation of healing and restoration. The protocol suggested and treatment recommended lacked a critical factor. Until I myself tested positive, did I realize that the critical factor was more important than what I had originally thought. And that is why I decided to talk to myself in this self-talk. I told myself that I must think like a thermostat and not a thermometer. And now that you know the difference between the two terms, you know how important it was for me to do so. You and I can decide and set the equilibrium of our bodies and minds. It is in our power to do so. It's not easy, but it is worth it.
COVID-19 disrupted the world as we knew it. Don't let COVID-19 get the better of you. Take proactive steps to protect yourself against the negative mental and emotional effects of COVID-19. You don't have to feel overwhelmed, powerless, or incapacitated. Register for Equilibrium, maintaining mental and emotional well-being today. Learn the art and skill of maintaining mental and emotional well-being. This is your first and best investment post-COVID-19. Show COVID-19 who's the boss. Bounce back